Hi, everybody. I'm Desiree Rumbaugh, and I am delighted to share with you the gift of yoga that I have received over all these years. And I'm excited about how my outlook on yoga has changed too, how it's morphed and grown over all these years. So in the beginning, of course, I came to yoga as a dancer and I was enthralled by all the poses and I wanted to get the poses and I wanted the challenge of the physical contortion of yoga. And I still like that. It's still interesting to me. But I have changed one major thing about the way I practice now. Now, instead of trying to do the poses or accomplish the poses or even try to keep the poses, which is not going to be happening, I want to use them to serve me, to use them to make myself feel better, to help my body feel better. And so I want to give you a brief example of how you can do this too. You can take very simple things and do them well, and they will help you feel better. So the first thing is how you sit in a chair. It can all be yoga, which means union of body and mind. So when you sit in a chair, and I've just chosen a normal household chair, not a special yoga chair. I'll take this out for a moment. Most of us, when we sit in a chair like this, so let's say we're like watching a show or listening to a lecture, we might sit this way, we might put a leg over, we might cross our legs. This is my airplane, sitting on an airplane. If you're driving, you could be a little bit more down like this. The common theme is the way the lower back is when we're sitting. And so if then we're leaning forward sometimes and we're working on something, and it's just kind of a rounded, unconscious shape. And sitting takes a bad rap. People say that sitting is the new smoking, but it's not really the sitting that's to blame. It's the way we're sitting. So that's why I have this blanket, or you could use a towel here to show you that just taking something rolled up here and putting it in your lower back like that. And then I have to raise my feet up because for my body proportions, the length of my torso and the length of my legs, I need a little bit more height. When I put my feet down on the floor, you see the way my knees slope down below my hips? That's not so good for my back. So if I put my feet up on a little height like this yoga block or a stack of books, same height, and scoot my hips all the way back and keep this roll in the lumbar region at the lower back, all of a sudden my neck and shoulders feels way more at ease. The placement of my neck and head are better. And it's such a simple fix. Now I feel better in my chair, and I can, if I raise my laptop up, which is what I usually do, I can work right here. I don't have to fall into this trap of going rounded and over, or shoulders round, head forward to just do my work. Or sitting in an airplane, it's really tough. Driving, you just move the back of the seat up, and then the dividends, the rewards you get back for paying this much attention to the way you sit are so great. It's really worth it. So this is my challenge to you, is try to make your sitting more mindful. And then from there, we can do things like this. I can turn, and I'll just let this blanket sit here, and I'm going to place my feet up again and put some books here so you could see that, and you can use anything. But now we're going to do actual yoga pose, a chair twist. First thing is scoot the hips back. Why? Because you want a lumbar curve. Why? Because in order to move your spine, you need to start at the base of the spine. If you don't pay attention to that, and you push on your chair with one hand and pull with the other hand, which is what feels like you should do. If you don't have your lower back in the right position to do this, you're just going to turn your rib cage. And that's like taking your spine and just violently grabbing it in the middle, right under the rib cage, turning one part of it really hard, but the rest of it gets ignored. So if you instead sit in front of your sitting bones and go with the top of the sacrum, some of you don't even know where your sacrum is, but if you touch your back and you feel all the vertebrae, you go down, you find the top of the sacrum, it's a good thing to know. That should be going in and up, one vertebra stacking upon the other, all the way up to the neck and the head. Then when you breathe and you turn, the whole spine moves really freely. I mean, not really freely, but much more freely than just yanking around the rib cage. I'll turn around so you can see how this looks from the back. And I have placed another block here to make it easier for this demo, but you'd have to move your stuff if you have a stack of books. And I have my feet up on this block, and now you see my back. Here's the top of the sacrum, and it's supposed to move in, not back, but in. And then each vertebra needs to stack all the way up. And I'm used to feeling that with my hand. You can just touch and see if you can feel the difference there. And then I hold my belly really strong so that I'm not just dropping my belly. Keep my rib cage strong and lengthen up one vertebrae at a time. As you push with one hand, you can see this open hand pushing and the other hand pulling, and you breathe and turn. And you could turn your head too, but even be aware that just turning your head like this might cause a little more tension than it relieves. But if you lengthen up through the back of your skull and keep your belly, low belly, and middle rib cage area and neck really strong and breathe, you get a much more even turn. And then you come back slowly and face front again. Now, whenever you practice yoga, I highly recommend you take off your shoes because there's some great things that your feet can experience that they need. So many days are spent in shoes that we forget to do things so simple like this. Put one finger in between each of your toes and just spread your toes and move your ankle around a little bit. This is just giving yourself the love. And it makes a difference to spread your toes rather than just having them be squished really tight all the time. I would bet that some of you have trouble if you try to go with your fingers from the front of your foot through that. See, for me, that's tighter. It's easy from the back, but from the front, you might notice, wow, I just do need that stretch. And then while you're here, you can rub your foot, especially into the arch of the foot. It gets a little bit tight there. When you press onto it, you can feel, wow, it's really tight because those muscles are falling if we don't have good arch support, so we don't have really strong feet. So that's why with yoga, we open our toes and we try to make the arch stronger. Let's work on the other foot now. Bring your other foot up and put your fingers through your toes. You know, this is something that maybe when you're younger, you don't feel as much, but as you start to get a little bit more age on your feet, you're going to have to work harder to stretch them, but it's worth it. It's the gift that keeps on giving back. And you could roll your ankle around and breathe. Simple things, flex and point, super simple. Yoga is anytime you bring the mind and the body together with the breath. So I'll put my fingers through the other way from the front to the back. They're a little tighter here, and try to stretch. I have arthritis in one of my toe joints, the big toe joint. And so this is one of the ways I keep it at bay. I can't make it go away. That arthritic joint is now bigger and stickier, like it doesn't bend like it used to. But by continuing to work on it and rubbing the sole, the foot, the arch, I'm keeping it at bay and I can live with it. I don't need to have surgery. Sometimes surgery is necessary, but most of the time it's just body maintenance, self-care. And so I'm rubbing my foot and rolling it around. And then if you take your foot out, you see, you can flex your foot and you can make the arch get stronger. On the floor, we call it making your foot short. So I teach wisdom warriors and I teach people who are usually about age 40 and on upward, who are starting to realize that the body is just not staying the same as it used to be, and it needs a lot more self-care and maintenance. So take my foot and then shorten it, strengthening the bottoms of the feet. It's just one of the things we train. So Wisdom Warriors is like remaking your body into the new, improved version of where it's going if you don't train it, if you don't pay attention to it. So now I'm sitting back in my chair again, and I hope you're starting to get the understanding of where the top of your sacrum goes in, right about here, and then how the vertebra come up from there. And if you just take your hands behind your head and you stretch one vertebra at a time, like you're stacking them and trying to move them. Now, if you started from here, like you have a really rounded shoulders, any kind of movement you do to try to like lift your whole spine up will decompress you because you're kind of compressed. And you're starting to be able to feel what it's like to even just try to decompress. And eventually it ends up to where the shoulder blades will find their way farther back and you'll be able to breathe and open your chest a little bit. We call it opening your heart. But you notice I'm not dropping my head back because many times people think if they just drop their head back like that it makes the back bend. But now when you look at me do that, you see, wow, that's such a great idea. It just hurts your neck. So instead, lengthen from the back of your skull all the way up through to the ceiling and then move at the bottom tip of the shoulder blades a little bit. You can even hold your arms open like this. Maybe your arms are only here right now, but if you breathe in and then you exhale and stretch, maybe they open. You can do such simple things with your shoulders. like this. If I have my arms just right beside me and I externally rotate the whole shoulder girdle like that and put the shoulder blades on your back, and then you try to lift your arms up. So if you don't do it that way and you just open your palms and go up, it doesn't mean that you have integrated shoulders with your upper back muscles. I'll show you this way. If you just externally rotate your hands and raise up, you aren't integrating your shoulder blades. But if you can externally rotate your shoulder blades onto your back and then stretch your arms up, it's a whole different exercise. So if you're wondering, do I work out as well as do yoga? The answer is yes. I work out with weights, and I do body weight exercises to keep my whole body strong. And then from there, I make it flexible. So to answer another question that's probably on your mind, do people lose flexibility with age? Many people do. They experience a stiffening of the tissue after midlife hormonal changes. So then what do? You know, maybe you love sports, maybe you're strong, maybe you really work at it, but you haven't spent much time on your flexibility. Well, here's the good news. If you're strong, we can use your strength and we can help you get more flexible. If you're weak though, you have to get more strength before you can become flexible. So here's another example. I'll take this out for a moment with my feet up on the block. I'll show you a cat pose, starting at the tail, always starting at the bottom of the spine and working to the top. I'm going to, on purpose now, tuck under. See how I'm making the body shrink down, but I did that on purpose. I have that much movement. Can you do that? Can you tuck under your tail and pull your low belly in, and then vertebra by vertebra, can you move into all the ab muscles you have here? And then can you round your shoulders? Can you spread them apart, shoulder blades, and hold on to your knees and tuck your chin into your chest and really stretch your back? I think of a bear scratching its back on trees. And now can you go from here into what we call cow? This is cat pose, like an angry cat. To go to cow pose, can you start at the bottom and move your sit bones back all the way to the back of your chair, and then take the top of your sacrum in and keep your head down because we're moving our way up. And then you can go vertebra by vertebra, just breathing and seeing. Some of you are going to find you have like 4 vertebrae that are stuck together. The muscles are so tight that they won't even let you move. So you pause, breathe in, exhale, and then you move vertebra by vertebra. So this, I have to close my eyes here now because I have to picture, am I really articulating each vertebra, or are they going together in chunks? They might be going together in chunks, but I'm going to use my strong visualization. I'm also going to keep my front muscles strong. I'm not going to let my belly just hang out. I'm going to keep my front muscles strong. Of course, my back muscles are going to work. And then there's muscles. It's like a muscle sandwich around your spine, going all the way up through your neck and head. And finally, the shoulders will open. And breathing. And that's what I call now the cow pose. Now, just for contrast, I want you to try it this way. If you just tuck under and then you push your chest out, that might be what you think of as cat and cow. And we didn't do it that way. We took our time and we started at the base of the spine and we worked vertebra by vertebra. Let's do that again. If you want to do the back bend, you have to move your sit bones all the way back and tilt your pelvis until you're on the front edge of your sit bones. And then you have to go into the top of the sacrum in, and then the next vertebra, and the next one, and you're climbing your way up here into this pose and breathing. And this is all yoga because you're paying attention to everything you're doing in the moment. And so you aren't thinking about the past or the future right now, you're just right here. And now we're going to go from here to cat pose. So we're going to tuck our tailbone. I still haven't moved up in my upper part of my back because I'm down in the lower back in my consciousness. I'm tucking it under, and then I'm going back into the belly. And so I find this fascinating. Maybe not everybody would, but learning about how my spine gets stronger and more flexible, I find fascinating. And you bring your chin down to your chest, lift your shoulders up, lean back into the chair, but round. You got a tucked tail on purpose and a tucked chin on purpose, and your whole spine is round. And after that, you should feel a little bit more movement. Believe it or not, I work really often on this because if I don't, I've got these patterns because of decades of the way I've practiced or done my athletic activities or my dance or whatever I've done. I've created patterns and they're not all healthy. So I have to kind of shake them up on a regular basis. Okay, a couple more things for you. Sometimes people are side sleepers. Many of us are. And sometimes we don't realize this, but night after night, we sleep on the same side and maybe we have our arm under our head. You might start to notice that you're getting shoulder problems because you spend so many hours just kind of hanging out on one arm. So you can do this simple thing is put your hand underneath your arm and push. See, I'm pushing my shoulder over. I'm just moving that whole side of the body wider. Grab your arm muscles and your arm bone and push over. And this will also stretch in the trapezius around your neck. And on the other side, it looks like this. I'm just pushing it over. And that could also be pulling your arm out and then bringing it across. So you pull it away from your shoulder a little bit and bring it across and do this stretch. And breathe. Just freeing up any tension that might be collecting there. I want to know about it if I have it. And then the other side too. Oftentimes you have your dominant arm, like this is my right, I'm right-handed. That one needs a little extra special care. So I have to search for the better feeling place and then hold that too. And breathe. So we want to have shoulders that go around and then come back. They want to protract and retract, not just always squeeze together, but also round. So take your arms bent like this and cross one over. And you don't have to wrap your hands. You just press your arms against each other and try to round your upper back like a stretch between your shoulder blades and take some breaths. And then the other side, switch arms. Press your arms and hands against each other and try to round your back. So think about it. Take your sternum, your breastbone back. Round your shoulders. Take your chin down and breathe into your back body expanding. And then you can bring your arms down and roll around. So I'll leave you with this. Rather than complain that we're not happy or that we're afraid or we have some negative emotion rolling through our brain, we can become curious, we can journal about it, we can talk to a trusted friend or counselor about it, we can get to the bottom of figuring out why we're having these emotions. It's good to feel the emotions, but I want to know why I feel that way and what can I do to lift it a little bit. Same goes for the body. Rather than just complain about how old we're getting or how much we ache from whatever we did or didn't do, there's simple things we can do about it that raise our vibration and create just even the smallest amount of lift for us mentally as well as physically in our day. So my hope is that people will find a way to relieve their suffering. And I offer this through my yoga classes, which are on my website, and my book, Fearless After 50, How to Thrive with Grace, Grit, and Yoga. And I'd be happy to help you. So thank you very much. Thank you to all who made this possible. And I hope that you have felt a little bit better from practicing with me today. And may all beings be well and learn how to relieve their suffering. Namaste.